Hello and welcome to metalsmithing. I am Miss Simonson, and in this first lesson today we are going to go over the tools you received, and we will also talk about the metals that we use, the different sizes, and just some other details. So to begin with the tools, you all received a set of 3 tools here. Okay, they may not look exactly like what I have at home, but they all function the same. So we'll start with your round nose pliers. The jaw of these is round all the way. The only change is that it's tapered back here from large to small. So if I was to use a piece of wire back here, I would make a loop and it would be bigger than the loop that I would make if it was up here. So your chain nose pliers feature an inside jaw that is flat. It is also tapered from back to front, and this allows you to make bends in wire and hold on to wire and metal in small little spaces and just manipulate it in ways that your round nose pliers can't. So these are your cutters. So there are 2 sides to the cutter, okay? One side is flat, flush, and this side has a V notch to it, okay? So when you cut a piece of wire, you're going to have 2 finishes to it because both faces are not the same. So on this side, your wire would be flat versus this side, and your wire is going to come out with a point to it, you know, so kind of like that. I will talk about this over and over again, but I would like for you to get used to using and just knowing that you want to have a flush cut on your wire and metal for a couple of different reasons, and I'll get into that later. So those are the 3 tools that we are going to be using, and those 3 tools can be used to create almost everything that is jewelry related, at least in Metalsmithing 1-2. You'll get to use a lot of different tools when we get back to school, so I look forward to showing you that. So now I will go over the metals that we use. So this first one is copper, and copper is the copper that we use is 99% pure. So because it's a pure metal, it's the softest and easiest to work with. Brass is the next metal that we use, and it has like a gold tone to it. So brass is an alloy, meaning a mixture of more than one material, of copper, 85%, let me look here, yep, usually 85%, and then the rest of the alloy used to make this is usually zinc, or it might be tin, but it's 85% copper, and that copper level allows us to be able to recycle both of these materials. So when you get back to class, we'll talk about that further, but if you can help and not throw away your scrap, that would be great. If you save it, I can turn that in and they'll give me money for it essentially, and then I can buy more wire. So the last metal that we use is nickel. Nickel is also an alloy, 65% copper, 17% zinc, and 18% nickel. So it's the nickel content that gives it the silver or the white color. But because it's an alloy of 3 metals, it's much harder to work with than brass, and especially copper. So this is going to be true of a lot of different things. The more pure the copper or the metal, the easier it is to work with. So we also use the same 3 metals, but in sheet form. So you can see somebody cut a shape out of this nickel sheet, I'm not sure what that was. We have copper. And then a little piece of brass. So those are our metals. Talked about the tools. Let's talk about the size. So this copper here is, I believe, 10 gauge wire. This copper here is 26 gauge wire. So when I talk about the gauge size, the higher the number, the smaller the wire. The lower the number, the bigger it is. And that is true for both wire and for metal. So I'm not sure what this is. Feels like maybe 24. And I'm not sure what size this is either, but I'll tell you what. Like I talked about the alloys, this metal is really hard to move because it's nickel. If I had the same gauge of this in copper, I would have no issues moving that around. So, we've talked about your tools. We've talked about the wire and sizing. And next we will actually start to work on some techniques. See you soon.